Thank you, Brother Lau. Thank you for the kind remarks. So when Brother Lau called me up one morning and asked me to talk about mindfulness, and obviously because the request came from Brother Lau, I gladly accepted it. The I asked him how long does the talk is going to take. I said, don't worry. I said, we're going to take about an hour. So I'm gonna take 3 hours of your time, okay, to talk about this mindfulness. But that's a joke. I'm gonna do that. I've been told not to exceed time, so I'm trying to finish in 45 minutes. Now, so as you probably noticed, the notice that was sent out was talking about the 3 points: mindful of the moment, mindful of the purpose of life, and mindful of a balanced life. And obviously, these are all challenges that we face every day. So here we are in one of Master's point is say, be honest and truthful in everything you do. Be kind and forgiving in our interactions with others, because in doing so, we'll be very mindful of how you live and how you work. And so what I'm gonna do is that, now I also noticed that, some of you may have Google as to find out who I am. So now there are not many people in Tzu Chi who really know who I was in my past life. I mean, past life meaning past working life. So those who have Googled me would have a certain opinion about me, as to who I am. And it doesn't resonate with what I'm going to say, because you have some perception, I guess, about me, because this is what is said in the various websites and so on. So let's see when you take you through and where the mind that you have about me at the moment and what it ends at the end of the talk. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to share with you my personal journey of realization in Tzu Chi as a parent, a seeker, and so on and so forth. And let's start the journey then. So life is a journey. Now, when I was, this happened to me when I was about 17 years old. So, and this is the thing about when life is a journey. And at birth, and we came with nothing. And this is a wondering thought that I have. At birth, we came with nothing. Then upon death, we also go with nothing. So in between birth and death is only a dash. And this particular dash that I have in life, we're living in the dimensions of time and space. So there begins my wandering thought, and what's going to happen is what does this dash means? You see, what's going to happen is that at the point that we die, and this is just an imagination, and say what happens to me at the point that I die, and there's an instant video replay of what I've done in my life. And what would that dash be? And so I then look back and say, how would I then be mindful of how I should live my life? So what I then did was I broken down my dash into 5 dashes, which I will take you through in a journey. And what are these 5 dashes? So then I asked, I'm sure you do, and and most of you probably have the same answer. So what you're going to do? What do you want in our life? And I think everyone that I ask, I still remember when I was in sixth form in school when I was 17, and everyone says, I want to be good, I want to be happy, and that is a very common answer. And until today, the, that answer doesn't change. And then this is a very common answer. But in reality, is and obviously after being when I started at 17 and wherever I am right now, I look back, and in reality, something happened. Something happened between them wanting to be good and happy, and in reality, what really happened? They are actually unhappy. We are hurting others. We are grasping as much as possible to satisfy ourselves. So there's a disconnect between the two. So, what can we then do to reconnect ourselves into the ways of what we want to live to be? How can we be mindful of what we should be doing, how we think, and so on and so forth? The great thing is about within birth and death, and I mean the life that we have, is that we have the freedom to choose, and that's the good news. Because we have the freedom to choose, we can choose to be mindful of our life. So what these five dashes that I have in here is that these five dashes refer to my five fingers. So these five fingers, and I look at it, if I were to start life, there are five phases in my life. I'm actually now in my last phase, okay? That's a cut, a long story short. And I'll explain to you what these five fingers represent in my life. But put it briefly, the first part of here, it ends at 30, okay? And this part here, it starts at 55. Why 55? Because it was a retirement age, 55. So between 30 and 55, in between, I have only 25 years. And within this 25 years, I need to fulfill these three goals that I set for myself. Now, you be wondering, well, I mean, at 17, I would have said all these things. To me, life is like a plan. I mindfully plan what I would see my life to be. That's what I said my life. So I still remember when I was 17 years old, I applied to do my further studies in the UK. So I left when I was in lower six and went over to UK to do my A levels. I still remember I was being interviewed by this lady in the British High Commission. And he asked me how long you're going to be in the UK, and I told her 7 years. Now everybody before me was say 3 years or 4 years, but I said 7 years, and I said, and he looked at me very puzzled, and I say, young man, why are you going to stay in UK for so long? Well, I told her I want to complete my A levels in 9 months, which is 1 year, 3 years at university, and 3 years to do my chartered accountancy. That would add up to 7 years. And he just looked at me and he said, young man, you seem to have everything worked out. So that begins that journey in this first dash in here. Why is N at 30? I'll come to that. And then, so it was matter, if you like, I planned it in a very methodical way to do this, and I'll share with you why I do that in this journey. So the thumb, what does the thumb represents? The thumb represents my well-being, meaning you can say it's wealth, comfort, a good life, so on and so forth, right? And I set myself that I want to achieve that at my age of 30. My index finger represents the family. Then only then I prepared to start a family. And I wasn't prepared to start a family until I fulfill this. So then the family. Then after the family, then I said, I need to really look after my health. And then what does the ring finger represent? With all this journey that working, climbing the corporate ladder, the side of the family, the health, and there must be some learning in all these things and in my life. And that is what I learned from the worldly wisdom. And only then that my little finger is say, then I'm prepared to go to spirituality. Although I have interest in spirituality at the age of 17, that I was not willing to be that committed until I go through all these areas. But obviously, sometimes it's not a very well-defined line from one finger to the other, and sometimes they do overlap, and it did overlap in the process of that. But the point is, I mindfully set it up, and therefore it panned out the way it did. So let me take you through this journey of minding your life, starting with the term of well-being. Okay. So as I say, I started off by setting up my lofty goals, if you like, that I want to fulfill my ambition. But very often I find that a lot of people who are ambitious, there's no end to it. And what I want to do, I do not want to fall into that trap, so to speak, that I will die fulfilling just my ambition. So I told myself that must be attained by age of 30. And that's the reason why I set it at 30. Now the position, is there an apex? Is there a right? I'm continuing to climb. I mean, again, there's no end to it. Same thing with the power. Is there a limit? And what is being consumed by it and not mindful how you're going to handle this? There's no limit. The title, having a title, is there any importance to that? So I told myself that I'm going to do all these things by the age of 30. I'm going to let go from that. Now, let go doesn't mean that I'm going to relax, but then the thing is that I wanted to achieve what I wanted to achieve by the age of 30. So that begins my journey. So when I reached 30, I want to fulfill the position that I was aiming for when I was working. And I said, okay, then therefore I would then I'll focus on the family. So, and I did achieve that age of 30. The only thing is obviously in the process of this, but when we look back at ambition, position, power, or title, what does it all mean at the end of life? So remember just now I just shared with you from birth to death. But a point of that, when there's a video replay of what I would have done, what does all this mean? I know that the ambition doesn't mean anything, the position doesn't mean anything, neither does power or title doesn't mean anything at all. But why did I then set up to have been mindfully set up that I want to achieve by age of 30? Because I needed that to make sure that I have a good enough life to be able to ultimately be able to live a comfortable life, to be able to engage in spirituality. I'm not religious, but I engage in spirituality. And that's the reason why. It wasn't an end. It was a means. Okay, so therefore the thumb there was only a means to achieve an end. So at the age of 30, I told myself, well, by age of 30, can I be a millionaire at age 30? Obviously, I failed in that. I didn't become a millionaire at age of 30. But I managed to achieve the position that I wanted, and I just let go from there onwards. And so now, everybody wants to be wealthy. And I have this quote in my office to remind me when I was in my 20s, so that I do not fall into the wealth trap. And so I have this little quote, which I would put in the cupboard behind me. And this is what it says. You are wealthy when contented. You can have as much as you want, but you're not contented, the person is very poor. So resonating with this, and the master will say, one who is content finds great happiness, even sleeping on the ground. But one who is discontent will never find happiness, even in heaven. And, um, and this resonates with what I have set up myself to be, that if I'm contented, I should be happy. So therefore, and that's the reason why that I say that at age of 30, this is where it stops, and I will let life flows insofar as my well-being is concerned from there, and it will take care by itself. So let me now move on to my index finger about the family. And this obviously is not straightforward, and I'm sure you all will have faced similar challenges in the process. And so you have a mindfulness of the family and the relationships that we have. So let us do a 5-finger exercise. In the 5 fingers, some of you may have done this before. The thumbs actually represent our parents. The index finger represents our siblings. And you, the middle finger, where you are in the middle finger. And the spouse in the ring finger, of course, and the children, the little finger. So let me just follow. You can see me, right? Can you all see me?
Yes.
So if you put your fingers like this together,
Yes.
And because the middle finger represents you, so can you just bend your middle finger and put it like this? Okay, the middle finger, bend the middle finger and put it together. Okay, so the rest of the fingers all stand up, right? So your thumb touching, left thumb touching the right thumb, the index finger touching your index finger, your ring finger touching your ring finger, and your little finger touching the other. Okay, now if you try to open up now your thumb, you can open, isn't it? Right? This represents your parents. Your parents will leave you one day. The parents will leave, so they'll leave you one day, right? So the index finger represents your siblings. That can be separated, right? Now the last finger represents your children. They will be separating from you too. Now I want you to try to separate the 4th finger. Try to separate the 4th finger. You cannot. You cannot separate the 4th finger. You know why? Because that's our spouse. The spouse is the only one to stay with you for the rest of your life. The parents will separate from you, the siblings, the children. Okay, and that's the reason why we wear the ring in the 4th finger. So this is something that we need to understand amongst the family as to wherever you are. And those who have been listening to me early morning, I say the best person to correct yourself is your spouse. So the parents and the children. You see, the relationship between the parents and the children, parents open the mind of the child to the world. And the parents are provider, is the guide, the guardian, and protector. But more often than not, as parents, we say we own the children. The fact of the matter is we do not. So, and when they grow up, they have their own life. But whatever it is, we still continue to be as parents. And we should also learn to grow to be a friend. It could be a friend to your child, to your children. So I like this particular quote that resonates with my belief, and that's what I try to practice. But sometimes it's difficult. So you should give the wings. For the children, we give them the wings to fly. More importantly, we give them the roots to come back, and we can give them the reason to stay. But we need to respect what they want to do. So the roots are the virtues that we cultivate for that they have reason to come back to you. And obviously, one you can say that in our Chinese philosophy, we talk about filial piety. And the reason for them to stay, how long they stay, they may be, but they should be inculcated in them. You can't force upon them. And therefore, this for them is for them to make their own decisions. And that is where we got to accept they have their own life. But relationships, we've got a relationship with a spouse, the children, the parents, parents-in-law, colleagues, friends, acquaintances, all this, and we got to be mindful of our relationship. And relationships are very important, can either make you happy or they can break you. But when we treat others with loving kindness, and what Master said, we will not stir up your feelings, and we will be able to form a good relationship with others. So much that sometimes we have loving kindness, sometimes the loving kindness is not reciprocated. But we need to accept that. That doesn't stop you to continue to have loving kindness. And in relationship, we have invisible boundaries. And these are the boundaries we either set knowingly or unknowingly. And boundaries is either you don't just stand on my side of the boundary, you're my friend, those are outside of my boundary, I discriminate or I differentiate from you. And that's why we have differences. We have differences because we set these boundaries in our mind, whether by belief, whether by virtues, whether by social circles, so on and so forth, or whether by hobbies, by interests, and so on and so forth. But we may not know about this, but as you then understand and observe your thoughts, then you'll realize that I do have boundaries, I do differentiate, I do discriminate. And that's where we learn to be mindful in our ways. Second thing is our upbringing and how we're being brought up, and our mind has been molded to the way we're being brought up. And we also our mind is also being shaped by worldly conventions of how we should and should not behave in the place that we work, maybe in the society that we live in the community that we live in. The question is, when you want to live mindfully, can you let go of these boundaries? But at the same time, the worldly conventions have these boundaries. At the same time, maybe your family set those boundaries. That's the condition that you live in. But the question is, can you mindfully in yourself, within yourself, can you let go of those boundaries? And that is why sometimes that lead to sometimes relationship problems and the differences that we have. So I took on this particular picture of being our unmindful ways. You see this particular picture, it shows that the man on top pulling up the lady at the bottom. You see, the lady at the bottom is wondering, look, there's a snake there, and I can't climb up. So why is he not making great efforts to pull me up? But then the guy on top there is being pinned down by a rock and he's suffering, he's in pain. And he's wondering about her. Why is she not making any efforts to climb up? You see, this is the way we are. We do not understand, and we take for granted sometimes the burden the other person has. All we do is obviously we are only concerned our hindrances and problems that we face without being mindful of what the other person is facing. And that's the reality for us in all our relationships. The index finger of health. So why I left health as a middle finger, because after the family, starting the family, then I quickly move on to health. So I attained my first finger well-being at age of 30. Then soon after that, I got married. After got married, we have our first child, and after 4 years of marriage, and after that, the rest came later. I have 3 children now. And so obviously after the family, I said I need to look into my health, because the body is the vessel in our life, right? During birth and death, the body is just a vessel. And once the vessel goes, that's the end of the matter. So what is the trade-off between my ambition and my health? So therefore I told myself that my body can take it up age of 30 and after marriage, and I will give a bit of attention to the health and continue to do so. But this part, when you're younger, your health tends to be less important. But obviously, as you start aging, you spend more time to check on your health. And what is the trade-off between the family and the health? And this relates to a family on the part of relationships. And also, and this is something I observe a lot. We spend so much time and effort looking after our children, even after they've grown up, even after they have started their career, and at the expense of our own health. And we need to find that balance. So I thought I shared this with you, and this is the last. Is that a cardiologist actually recommend 4 things to take care of your heart, and it's the last one that I find it very interesting. The rest you probably have heard about it before. Plant-based processed, actually it's supposed to be especially unprocessed food. To do your exercise, your stress. Apparently, it's love. Love is the one that actually have a healthy heart, and this is what we should be having. And this is why, once you have that balance, neither too ambitious, not just entirely in the family, you got a balance of the health, then you can have a balanced life. The ring finger, or the worldly vision, and worldly wisdom, sorry. So I say, if I set this part of my life, looking at my well-being, my family to family, and then a middle one for the health, sure, in all these periods, I will try to gather wisdom as much as I can until my retirement, and retire age of 55. So I retire age of 2013. I'm sorry, I retired in 2013, age of 55. So as it stands right now, I am unemployed. So this worldly wisdom that I will try to learn and gather. So what are your virtues that you uphold in life? And these are the questions that I gather, I ask, and I gather what are these virtues. And in the course of my work and in the course of my social engagement, in the course of my travels, I observe. And this is something that resonates with me right throughout my work, my career, and people that I mix with. I generally learn that there are 3 types of people. There are honest people, there are dishonest people, there are fence sitters. I call them fencer. Now, what happened is this. People who are downright honest, you can tell who they are. And people who are downright dishonest, you can also tell who they are. The problem is the third group of people that you find sometimes they never expected that thing to happen. So there was a survey that was done, and this survey that was done, and I started this with the theory that this group, that 1/3 of people are honest, 1/3 dishonest, 1/3 fence-sitters. But the reality is this: but a big majority of them are in offensives. These are the people who are dishonest, who are honest, but dishonest if given a chance. And being downright honest. And when sometimes when things happen, then there was a question that was asked whether one has cheated in the exams when they were in school, and a big portion of them actually they say they cheated, or things that they pick up a wallet and they're not returning, and so on and so forth. So, or things when someone is not looking, I will take one because someone is not looking at it. And there's a big portion of these people around. So therefore, when I learned about this, I became to be more and more mindful of myself, not about just other people. It's about myself, that I may be unknowingly doing that myself. So it's not just about taking things away, even in the things that I say. So these are the things that I am ask myself that am I practicing this? So mindfulness, being mindful in our life, I need to watch myself. So these are the things that I have learned to do. So the last one, the little finger is spirituality. So this is a reflection of your life, and right towards the end, then and when you look about spirituality, then I ask myself the question: um, what did your career mean? What did your family mean? What did your health mean? What did you learn from life? For me to walk on the path of spirituality, and that's my little finger. And therefore, although I was curious at 17, I and slowly grow to understand a bit more when towards about probably about 10 years before I retire, and become to learn more and more. And I try to relate that back, and map those virtues that I've learned into the spiritual path. So what will the worldly life lead you to? And this is a question that I ask myself. That's the reason why I just shared with you in the worldly wisdom and what I've learned from that. And then why the little finger? Why did I not put a thumb as the first one? I mean, why the five fingers is the smallest little finger? Because at the end of the day, the spirituality that what I wanted to learn is the small mind, is to lose myself. It's the small little self that I have that I say at the end of the day, you know what, I don't mean a thing. And that is why I put myself, the spirituality, as a little finger to remind me, no, I got to reduce my ego. And that is a slow part, and it's not about myself, it's all about others. So at the end of the day, all that matters will not matter, right? Does your career, meaning, family, health, and so on. All that matters will not matter. All that didn't matter will matter. But realizing that in the end is too late. So we got to be mindful to actually start to realize it now and be mindful. So in a mindfulness in my practice, to live this exemplary life with virtues and wisdom. And the wisdom of learning, the next step before taking it. You see, when we walk this in our life, as it comes to us, we think we know what's going to be in, for example, we are pursuing, I want to be rich, I want to be rich, I want to be rich. So, and I find that when there's no end to that. Number two is that we tend to list that, you get an old wise one to tell you what can that lead you to. We don't believe in that. But the wisdom is actually learning from someone who actually taken on that step and learn from that. But problem is, more often than not, we don't accept that. And so therefore, we need to have that discerning wisdom to actually learn as much as we can from the wise ones. So in this learning, we got three conditions to learn. You've got to learn the lessons of life, not just about from our life, but also from the life of others. We need to learn to give way to others. And it's not about myself. And at the end of the day, whatever we all do, at the end of the day, we have to fulfill responsibilities. Responsibility to our spouse, responsibility to our children, and responsibility to your parents, your siblings, and a responsibility to the society at large. And that's what that I've learned to be mindful in my life. So all these things all ends up to living a simple life. So living a simple, because when you live a simple life, you can live a balanced life. Living a simple life, you do not graduate to one extreme to the other. So living a simple life makes the heart feel at ease. We are at ease that we can, whether it's the family, whether it's friends, whether it's work, so on and so forth, because there's no worry of winning or losing. And that's why I put the little finger to remind me of it's not about winning. My last finger is the last. So at the end of the day, I then ask, who am I? Am I this body that looks what I look like? Then I ask myself whether you want to ask your spouse who you are, or ask your friends, are you a nice guy? Is she nice? Or you are your mind. So we, in a physical sense, and somebody asks who I am, I can describe the way it's just my body. Or I can be someone, people will describe me the way I talk, or the words that I speak, or it's just my thoughts. But the problem is that our mind actually generates thoughts, and our thought will generate what we say, and then we also generate the action of our body. So all these things will lead to how to choose in our life. So our life is the fate in our life, right? So people say it's fated. But if it's fated, can we change our destiny? And all this thing all starts with this. So be mindful of what you do. We need to observe my mind. And I just shared with you that we need to look inside ourselves and mindful. Because when you watch your mind, they will become your thoughts. Your thoughts, they will become your speech and your action. And your words and action, they become your habits. And your habits, they will become your character. And your character will determine your destiny. And that's how you want to change your destiny, we got to go back to the origin of our thoughts. You change your thoughts, you change your destiny. And therefore, life, as I first started this talk, as a choice, we have the power to choose what is our destiny. So be mindful what you do in your thoughts, in your words, and your deeds. So we need to choose wisely. We choose wisely to change ourselves. This life can be lived in bliss or in hell, depending on just on your single thought. So evil, if there's anything, is created by our own minds. So we cannot blame on others. So we get to know ourselves. This journey of mindfulness. We are so busy getting to know about other people. We got to know ourselves. We are actually ignorant of ourselves. So if you know yourself, you can correct yourself. And that is where the truth lies. So at the end of the day, when you look at yourself, who is the master, you or the mind? So you need to understand the mind, right? So if you are the master, then who are you? So there was this story of a horse, and this horse was galloping right through very fast into the village. And people were wondering, where is he heading? And people were moving away and were asking the rider, where are you heading? And he said, I don't know, ask the horse. And isn't it our life is like that most of the time? We're already unmindful. We just gallop very through our life because we don't know where our mind leads to. But in reality, the point is we do not observe the mind and be mindful. Our mind will lead us where the mind wants to be, and that is the ego. So confusion and awareness are decided in a single thought. Good and evil are created by the mind. So therefore, remember that the mind must not be your master, but must be your servant to serve you. And that's the reason why I separated my one long dash in my life into 5 dashes. So growing in mindfulness, you watch your thoughts, it becomes your character. How? Learn to be still and observe your thoughts. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, but very often we use our 1 mouth more than our 2 ears. So by right, we should actually speak half of what, as much as we listen. And therefore, we got to be mindful of our own speech. So we need to live this purposeful life, to make this life that we have a meaningful purpose. We grow to have a heart of great love. We need to learn to live a disciplined life so that we do not fall into the sideways of our life. We change our character. So the 4 simple steps that I've undertaken in this life. So undertake never to hurt, ever to help, ever to care, and ever to serve. So live a purpose-led life, living your life for the benefit of others. So the actual purpose of deliverance is to commit great ambition, pledge great vows, and actively dedicate great love to all sentient beings. And this is what we should be doing, right? So when you live, why is it when people, and this is a question that was quite often asked, what makes you happy? And there are some realization from really wealthy multimillionaires and billionaires. Then they say that, well, at the end of the day, what makes them happy is that when they see others be happy. And that is a realization that we should grow towards. So in this journey of a mindful life, life is a bubble. Now, the bubble can burst anytime, even before it surfaces. And the bubble will inevitably burst when it comes to the surface. It will be. And what happens then? So we have the power to choose in our life. But in the process of choice in our life, and this is the journey that I travel, when I try this, I try to set this 5 dashes in here, but there are plenty of side roads along the way. And we will be attracted by a lot of side shows in our life. So therefore, that's the reason why we need to be disciplined. But your choice, whether you're going to travel straight down, curve down, or uphill, and that will determine your destiny. And it's not the fate that determines your destiny, it's you, it's your choices. So this is my last slide. In these key learnings, you have the power to choose in life. And choose never to hurt, ever to help, ever to care. And just be nice. Okay? You want to study about mindfulness, the best way to study about mindfulness is to study yourself. So the path of life is difficult and rough, but as long as one is willing to give with joy and give with joy, the path will not be arduous, and that's the path of life that we can easily undertake. So the choice is yours. So am I what you expected to be, especially those who Google about me? It doesn't quite resonate with what I think you know about me from those websites, but here I am. Okay, Ghanaian brothers and sisters, thank you.
Hello. Wow, what great sharing by Brother Chin. Isn't he great? Wow, it's so amazing that he can put the complexity of life in such simple form. 5 points to remember, and it create simple boundary using our fingers to guide us. So as long as we have the hand in front of us, the 5 finger can guide us. So which one are you working on now? Are you working with a family, building a family, or are you working with a career? And as he said in the summary, the best way to study mindfulness is to study ourselves. All right, now we are open to Q&A. Is there any question? You can unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can send in through the chat, and we will try our best to answer you. So is anyone sending the question already? Yeah, Brother Chin is waiting for you. Go to chat, see any question.
Brother Chin, hi, Stephanie here.
Yep.
Thank you so much for the sharing. There is a question that came in. How can we give joyfully when life is currently arduous?
Okay. Giving is not about giving material things. Giving can be giving a smile. Giving can be giving of effort. Giving can be giving of time. So therefore, we need to understand what is it that we are giving. Okay. So obviously, if sometimes when someone is in a very great pain and difficulty and is not in a position to give, and that's fine. Don't do that. But if one who cannot afford to give in terms of money or donation, they can always give a helping hand. And the simple thing to give is to give a smile.
Okay, thank you so much, Brother Tin, for that answer. I think all the parents here, kindly please seize the opportunity to ask Brother Chin. As a parent, Brother Chin has 3 children. All are successful in their own career. So maybe for parents who are, we have parents who are basically most of our parents are young family. All right. Perhaps parents can seize the opportunity to ask Brother Chin questions regarding the balance. How do they balance life, working life and family life, if you wish to, and earn. Okay, that's one that came in. Brother Lau, may I forward this question? How would you advise couples who have fallen out with each other? How would you advise couples who have fallen out with each other? This question is from Professor Lucy. Kan Professor Lucy?
All right. Oh, yes, Lucy. Lucy, I know Lucy. Lucy was someone that I encountered in the early years when I took on the spiritual path. Okay, I have over the years a number of times that people come and talk to me about things, about their relationships, and obviously there are times that the condition is such that after a while they decided to they're falling out with one another. But let me share with you some cases. Now, I let me segregate into one part where it's about, and all these cases that I had in my early part of my experience it's about the husband. Okay, it's always the husband who's the naughty one, and here I am. I asked him to hang on to the marriage, and but I must say, looking back, they until today they are still with each other, and they have made up for what they whatever differences they have. There's also one case where the obviously the husband was very naughty, and unfortunately this lady she was working with the husband, and in this business that started with the husband and the wife, and suddenly she found out that she hasn't worked for anybody else, being thrown out in the open. The problem is that she, at that point in time, there was just no self-confidence. And I actually asked her to go and get a job. And as a result of which, I typically have 2 similar cases like this. They become very successful today. They became one of them became more successful than the husband. So the husband's not had to depend on her. So the whole relationship was turned around the other way. Okay. So I asked her, obviously they said that obviously they said the love's no longer there, but they're still together, but for the sake of the children, but they get on with their own life. Now, for my part, I believe that a marriage is sacrosanct. It's for life, and as much as possible to do that way. But if one have to walk out, there's nothing you can do about that. But you got to make as much as possible. You got to make the great effort to make that relationship work on your side. Whether that the other side works or not, that's a different matter. Then I got engaged into in the early part. I engaged in doing a lot of work to help single mothers, and during that period of time, so all the stories that I hear, I have never known how mean and how cruel men are. until I got engaged into that relief work to help single mothers. And then I'm beginning to understand about men. So a lot of the times that I find that based on all the experiences that I have, is about the internal boundaries that we set either by the wife or better by the husband. But because we had those internal boundaries, there will always be differences. But once you take out the boundary, there will not be. So sometimes it becomes one way that only either the husband talks to me or only the wife talks to me. I just have to guide them to take away the internal boundaries. Obviously, for that to work, and it's quite painful sometimes for one party to take off the boundaries, and the other party does not. But it's about going through perseverance. But conditions will change. But so far, I must say that when those conditions change and over time, the other party started to open up. Okay, but it's not easy, and I know that. And that's the reason why I say that we have to set this journey early on. Okay, unless you understand that and have that balance. But if you obviously at the beginning you set the balance and you travel through life, it's a lot easier. But when it's unbalanced, you try to balance back, and so one party has to give way.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Chin. That was a very good commentary. Maybe you can briefly share with us what is some of what are the things that you learn while bringing up your children?
Bringing up children. Okay. My home sister is listening, you know. she probably say I didn't have a part to play with it. I'm very, first of all, I'm very blessed that my home sister have brought all the children up well. Okay. Now, something that I learned is this: the role of the father and the mother. The mother is always if you like, the one that takes care, and that's where the soft part, where the love is. And the father is like the one who guides them in strength in the pillar to bring the child up, so that they usually the mother is straight. The father will come and say, okay, like you can go ahead and do that. So for me, I'm guided by three things, which I shared with you in the slide. I learn, I mindfully instill upon them that they have wings to fly. Okay, so in other words, I set them out. So all three of them, I from early age, when they were doing their Form 6, I sent them to boarding school. So I didn't send them overseas. I sent them to boarding school in Malaysia, away from home. So they try to live amongst the others. So that when and then after that, after they finished the A levels, I sent them overseas. So for them to transition, to live themselves overseas, they had no problem. Okay. Now, then of the three, the one in the middle came back from UK, and the other two stayed on to pursue their chartered accountancy. They started working. So my eldest he's a manager now with Ernst & Young in London. My youngest, my daughter, is with Pricewaterhouse in the UK. The middle one came back and started their own business. He's 25 this year. So he started his own business in photography and videography and doing commercials. So they have set on their own. I think if I were to reflect back, whether I had the freedom to do that, I did not, right? because in what time your parent will come back, you better come back and go and get a good job, and then you be on your own. Make sure you got a secure job is very important. But my second son is very he's a bit of a free spirit. Okay, so he came back, he worked for a small consulting firm, and after about 2 years, he quit and he just started his own little business. And he's fortunate that I can afford to give him room to explore what he wants. And he did that. And I must say that he's done reasonably well to what he's doing. And he's good in what he's doing right now. So he had that thing to explore. That's what I mean by the wings to fly. Okay. So in all these three of them, the second part is the roots. So I set where for them to really understand what are the root virtues, so that when they're alone on their own, they can always refer back to those root virtues. Now, I've been through that stage. I left for overseas when I was 17 years old. And going there alone when you're 17 and go to a foreign country you never been before, and I ask myself, what is it that I learned? And I go back and those root virtues that my mother taught me. Okay, so those are the things that you've got to inculcate into them. And the third point is the reasons to come back. Now, whether it will come back or not, I don't know. Okay, one of them did. Whether the other two will come back, I really don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they don't. I haven't a clue. So that one will be in the next episode now. Akan datang. So the point is that for them to have the reasons to stay, I'm not saying that they're going to stay with me. Whether that at least they do come back and stay with us for whatever reasons, for a short period of time or whatever. I don't expect all of them to stay with us.
And Brother Chin, sorry, may I interject for a while, Brother Love? There's a question here from one of our parents, Brother Tzu Chi Volunteers. He says he can't really understand the meaning of root virtues.
Right.
What do you mean by root virtues, Dr. Brother Chin?
All right, sure. You see, these root virtues are, number one, I'm talking about honesty. Now, what do you mean by honesty? Honesty is honest to yourself. Forget about if you're not honest to yourself, you cannot be honest to others. The first thing. Number two is sincerity. Okay, so when you cannot be sincere unless you're honest. Honesty can be just a moment, but sincerity is throughout. So in honesty, is to, so for my home system, I'm very fortunate that in the early years, they were sent to Sunday school in Bandar Utama, the Bandar Utama Buddhist Society, or the Sunday school. So they have they know the precepts they're supposed to take. Sometimes they even they say, oh, precept number one, you must not lie. You're going to be honest. You must not kill, so on and so forth. So they have all these core virtues for them to set them. The other virtue, being honest about honesty, sincerity, is to have an open and honest communication, so that I want them to know that whatever it is, there's always the parents they can talk to. Okay, it's important because then they know that there's a pillar. So, and I find that my children, they know that there are certain things they will talk to the mother. There's certain things they will talk to me. So my home sister would tell me, say, oh, when they want to buy something, they'll ask me. But I think more importantly is that I want them to know there is a pillar that can rely on. Okay, that communication part is very important because sometimes we do not know the pressure that they are facing. Okay, so I think the other one is that sometimes uh, they may be sort of gone overboard with is being mindful of their ways. Okay, but for them at this age, it's not easy for them to practice because it's about their character building. Got to be mindful of what they say, but the way they act, about the mannerism, and so these are the core virtues that I get to them, and the other one that I sort of instill upon them is that at the end of the day, the filial piety. Now, you see, when they send them to overseas to study, the filial piety is about respecting the elders. Is important because in the West, they don't have so much of that. So I remember my eldest son once, this was in his, I can't remember, the second or the final year at university. He got invited to spend Christmas with one of his university mates. So, and we were there. So we usually travel to UK about once or twice a year. So that was particular Christmas he spent that, and he came back and he said it's the first time I live with a British family, and they say he find it a bit weird, and asked him what is it that so strange. Well, they said that during Christmas, the son was actually sit down with the father and calculate what is his and what is the father, and they actually split those expenses. So he find it very strange that they would calculate into that manner. Now, obviously, for him, while I make him accountable for all his spending, and he will, I even make him to submit his monthly expenses to us. Okay, but that part is to teach him about accountability. But the part about being calculative with the parents, they find it very uneasy. Okay, so that is the part about the family values that he find there's great differences between the West and what we have taught them.
Hey, very good answer. Accountability, not calculate, not being calculative. Okay, I think there's another question somewhere around here. Let me see. Sorry. Oh, there's so many, Brother Chin. Wait, just give me a moment. Trying to scroll down.
Sorry, can I just have a follow-up question on
Okay,
the
great.
root virtues?
Brother Ben, is it?
Brother Chin, Chi Hon here.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
so following up from the root virtues,
Yes.
so I mean, like I try to instill in my son, this is what you got to do, this is what you got to do. So I mean, at some point he has to go and fly, giving his wings. But if I try my best to teach him all the root virtues, but if he he doesn't pick up and then things go bad along the way, then this is what I think as a parent we will be quite concerned with. He do the wrong things in life, despite me telling him, no, this is not right, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you resolve those kind of
Okay. Let me share with you my eldest son. When I still remember in the early years, I sent him to Kuan Ching school, and it was a real struggle for him because 4 years in a Chinese school, he came back, and there was once he came and he stated he wanted to start playing badminton. So I have my own badminton racket. You know what? After taking that for about a week, the racket never came back. He just lost I mean, hello, I say that is my Yonex Carbonex racket, you know. And he just lost the whole racket. And I didn't realize that he hasn't learned about, not that I teach him accountability, I couldn't. He doesn't practice it and he doesn't understand that. Now, I think I guess the breaking point was this. When I decided to send him to a boarding school, I just stay away from us. So he has to develop his own wings. So the problem, I think, sometimes for us parents, with number one, we're protective. Number two is that we don't want to let go. You know, I have spoken to parents who come and tell me, oh, you cannot let them stay outside. And that's also partly for us. I mean, we just had to keep covering them up. So when I sent her to the boarding school, I noticed he started to change because he was living on his own. He was obviously with the college mates. And then they became more and more mindful. So the question is that condition they are in? Because if they are in condition to be in the nest, so to speak, in their own nest, they're very comfortable because they don't need to practice it. They know the parents will always be there. But when they're outside, they have to fend for themselves. So based on my experience, this is what I have seen, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, I guess the mindset of a child is different from one to the other. I'm not sure if I've answered your question. How old is your child, Chi Hon?
Sorry. I had to unmute. I've got an 11. He's going
Still
to
young, lah.
yeah. So like, you know, when we tell him don't do this, think, you know,
No. Yeah.
I don't know how to instill the virtues to him sometimes. So PCPC was one way lah.
Yeah. I think if you are you very protective of him or her?
Kind of lah. But I scold him as well because I used the old school. I was caned by my mom, so I also cane these people. So at some point, I don't know whether it works or not anymore. No, try talking to them. So therein,
I don't know for myself. This is the father part of it, and the mother will be apprehensive. I try to let go.
let go.
I try to let go. Let him just be on his own. I still remember he was that time he was maybe I think it was about 11 or 12. I still remember that, and he told me that he wanted to go for an event, go-karting. But fortunately, I was very apprehensive. But I just wanted him, and that was the time that he wanted to be on his own, and he did. So, and you know, that go-karting when he went, he was being, he come back when I went and pick him up, and he said he was being bullied. I said, what the guy do? He said basically he went to sort of challenge him and things like that. And he said, what did you do? Well, he said he stood up and spoke out and justify what he was doing. And then what did he do? No, he just walked up. I stood my ground. So that was the first time that I remember that I knew that at least there was something that he learned. He gained confidence, and he realized that he had to stand up to his own virtue. Now, my second son, like I say, he should be more free-spirited. And he was about, I think he was about 12 or 13 years old. And one day he said he's been invited to attend the wedding of the tuition teacher. I said, okay. I said, ask us whether you can go. I said, of course you can go. But you know you're going to go alone, right? For this dinner. I say, are you okay? I say, yeah. So I said, okay, I'll send you there. 12 to 13 years, we went for attend a wedding dinner on his own. And so the thing was, I thought he would be assigned to a table. After that, I went to pick him up. So where did you sit? I would have thought they would be seated with all the other students. He said he was the only student who actually turned up. So he was seated on the table with some of her relatives. Then I asked, so you kept quiet throughout the whole dinner? And he said, no, I engaged in a conversation with them. I said, what do you talk with them? What kind of conversation do you engage with them? Oh, you know, sitting, the lady sitting down, the young girl sitting next to him, he was in his 20s. He was quite a techie buff. So I went to talk to him about the various computer games. So you were actually engaged in a conversation, right? To us, say, yeah. So these are a couple of occasions that as parents, sometimes we do not know how grown up our children are. Okay, we assume they are still little boy and little girls. And when you let them we do not realize that the wings have grown. And so when we let them fly a little bit and see, then that's for them to gain a little confidence.
Got it. I mean, maybe I wasn't ready to let them go even, I don't know when I'll be ready.
I know. I tell you what, based on my experience, most of the time it's not the children's problem, it's the parents' problem.
Possibly lah. Yeah, I mean, I got all the way down to 2 years old, so I got a lot to learn lah.
So you just do it mindfully, you watch by the side lah, I'm not saying that you just let them go, you got to watch by the side. And let them, you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed for them, even at 11 years or 11, 12 years old, how grown up they are,
Right, because when he was 9 or 10, he engaged in some physical brawl as well. So I was a bit concerned, but of course he knows it's not the right thing now lah,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Okay, good. Yeah. Maybe yes, it's about time to watch and how they can handle themselves. Thanks. Okay.
All right. So thanks, Brother Chin. I think it's time for.
We have one last question. Sorry,
Yes, one
just
more
came in.
question.
Sorry. Brother Chin, are you okay to stay for one last question?
Sure.
Everybody's seizing the opportunity to seek your counsel.
I
Brother
told you that
Chin.
I got 3 hours, right?
Wonderful. That's our extended time, yeah. Okay, now Brother Chin, the question is: in this challenging world, if a woman is ambitious and is given the opportunity to work in overseas, how can they balance up the family life? With the children.
Okay. I have this case on hand right now. Look, when I was, some of you may have Googled and may know that I was a partner of KPMG. Okay, it's one of the internet accounting firms. And as the firm started to grow, we admitted lady partners, and they're very ambitious, of course. And that is a growing trend. In fact, the ladies are becoming more and more, if you like, more and more engaged in the career path. Now, I then observe how do they balance the life. Now, let me start off with one lady I met. She was the regional head. Okay, let me get started. There's one of them is my client, and she took a strong career, but then obviously it was husband and wife who accepted that relationship. So the husband basically played the role of the house husband, and it was fine with him, and it was fine with her. And same thing with another lady that she is actually an Irish, migrated to Australia, and husband was then actually a fireman. Migrated to Singapore, she took a very major regional role for a huge IT company, so became a regional head. So he played the role of the house husband, and the relationship is fine. Then some of my lady partners, they became partners. Husband was engaged in business, So they decided to engage in for the children to be brought up either with the help of the parents, also supported by the helpers at home. So we need to accept that. We need to adjust for that. So it doesn't. I think the days for ladies to just play the housewife role is over. For your information, I met my home sister in KPMG. She's a qualified accountant, but I gave her a choice to say that when they will come to KPMG, how she want to develop her career. So we decided that she want to take a backseat, but then she's not totally out. So she took up a position that should allow her the flexibility to work from home. So even though we had the first child, she was working, I was working. Well, both of them were full-time working. So we had a helper at home to help us out. And so my mother will come down occasionally. So there was one time we had a runaway maid. So that was a bit of concern. Then when we were working, both of us working full-time, I would send my eldest son then to my sister's place in Subang Jaya. And then after work, I'll come and pick him up. And there was one occasion that I remember that she has to be in the office. So what I did was I took leave. I took leave to look after the elder son, and she then went to work from those period that she couldn't take leave. And so we need to work that out. I mean, now we need to understand that the relationship between the husband and wife are fairly equal.
Hey, and hope that answers the question. Actually, it's true, like what Brother Chin said. Yeah, I have a friend who was like that as well. So the husband encouraged her to take on all these regional roles, and they have that's the life that they chose to live. And the children grow up in all these countries, but they've come full when the wife has come full circle and grow in, now she take on the back seat and let the husband take on the jobs that he had wanted to. So it's just a matter of causes and conditions coming together, and at different stage of your life, you let somebody grow, and then you just stay at the back seat, and then you will grow at another time in your life. I guess that's how it had worked out for them very, very nicely. Yeah. Okay, are there any more questions? Okay, so Brother Lau, back to you. There's no questions at the moment.
All right. Thank you, Brother Chin. It was a very interesting conversation with all the parents, and many of you have great concern about bringing up children the right way. My own experience is the biggest gift you can give your child is to let them make their own mistake. You play the role of safety net. That means you let them do what they want to do, but you become the safety net for them in case they fall. But in case they don't fall, you have given them the biggest gift in their life. On my own, I learned the most when I make my own mistake. So I think it is very important we let the children make their own mistake. Okay,
so
thank you very
your
much.
Children are listening, right?
Yeah. Okay, so remember to give the feedback form for the non-PCPC volunteers. Please use the QR code on the left, and the PCPC parents use the link on the right to give your feedback to us. We need your feedback so that we can better our lesson as we go along. Okay, we are also learning from you. So thank you everybody for your time and effort. It was a great job. It was great listening to everybody. So have a great day and stay safe. See you. Bye bye. Cảm ơn.
Thank you.
Cảm ơn Brother Chin, and cảm ơn all the parents for joining us today. Have a nice weekend, and thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cảm ơn. Bye bye.
Thank you, Brother Chin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brother Lau.
Thank you, Brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Kanan.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much. Bye.
Then ask Sister Stephanie.
We didn't pay homage leh.
Ayo,
Just now still got people around. I don't want to say.